Call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Welcome. We did have an individual sign up to speak. So Mr. Chris Hartley, if you would like to make your way up to the microphone, I've got some instructions I will read. Thank you for coming tonight to share your opinion. A few rules of order regarding the public comment portion of our meeting. According to board policy, each speaker will have up to 5 minutes to speak. The speaker may also provide a written statement to the board to supplement his or her comments if desired. Our board secretary will keep time tonight on time card to hold you up when you have how much time you have remaining. It'll also be on the screen, displayed on the screen as you start, if you want to see a countdown version as well. The board may respond with specific factual information or existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries on a posted agenda item. Please note that to comply with FERPA laws on student privacy, you may not mention a student by name. Additionally, according to board policy, you may not make derogatory comments about an individual staff member either by name or title. Should you need to file a complaint, you may do this through our formal grievance process outlined in board policy.
Thank you. I won't take 2 minutes. Mostly thank you for doing a thankless job. We're very happy with the school district overall. I've been here, I grew up in this district and we've been back for 5 years now. Overall, very happy. So thank you very much. I have one question or comment, and I have a 10-year-old at the new school in Lake Country, which we're very happy with, and a freshman daughter, and it has to do with her or anything going forward. Potentially going to the new school up there. From what I understand, there's a full ban. We live in Lake Country and she's aligned for Boswell. But if she were to go to school up there or anybody else in any other school, there would be a full athletic ban or maybe some other cheerleading or whatever. But my concern is athletics. And I would like to request a reevaluation to just consider reducing it to just 1 year, which I think is more in line with the state. I don't know the exact rules, but that's my impression. So that's my only comment. I would just like a reevaluation of that, and whatever happens, happens. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then we will move into our educational service reports. First, we've got a special programs report. Dr. Hughes.
Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, members of the board. It's my pleasure to present to you the special programs report this evening. As a review, the Department of Special Programs encompasses the district's multi-tiered system of support, Section 504, and special education intervention and support programs. The multi-tiered system of support refers to supports that students receive. They're tiered interventions and that are made available to students for addressing their academic, behavior, and social emotional needs. The need for support is based upon a review of data and recommendations by the campus care teams. So far this school year, 1,970 students at the elementary level have received Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports in reading. 1,620 students have received Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports in math. And 221 elementary students have received Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavior supports. At the middle school level, 719 students have received tiered reading interventions and 1,021 students have received Tier 2 and Tier 3 math support. Moving on to Section 504, it's a federal civil rights law that guarantees certain protections to persons with disabilities. As a recipient of federal funds, the district is required to provide the needed accommodations and services to afford equal access to educational programs and activities that are available to non-disabled peers. It's important to note that Section 504 is an unfunded mandate for which the district does not receive any additional federal funding. To date, the district currently serves a total of 1,978 students, which includes 570 identified students at the elementary level, 588 students at the middle school level, and 820 students at the high schools. This number varies and as student needs are identified. Next is the special education program, and special education encompasses child find process, which is locating and evaluating children within the district's boundaries who may be in need of special education and related services. Once identified and determined eligible, the ARD committee, which includes the parents, determines the services and accommodations a child needs as part of their individualized education program. The special education program is the only intervention program that has specific federal and state compliance and audit requirements. Regarding child find, the district is responsible for locating and evaluating any child ages 3 to 21 who may be in need of special education and related services, and there are specific eligibility criteria for 13 different disability categories. The district continues to experience a high volume of special education referrals that require a comprehensive evaluation. Last year, the district completed 793 evaluations of children ages 3 to 21. At the time this report was prepared, we had evaluated 825, and that number is now up to 900. And we are anticipating, we have 176 evaluations pending, so we would have completed about 1,200 evaluations this school year for initial evaluations. That does not include any students that were required to reevaluate every 3 years to reestablish eligibility. So the increase in the number of evaluations leads to an increase in the number of students served, resulting in also significant increases. As you can see from the 22-23 snapshot, which is in October of each year, we had 3,180 students. Our 23-24 snapshot was 3,678 students, and currently we're serving 4,099 students. So besides the growth in the number of students served, the special education program has benefited from grant funds. Special education teachers and current dyslexia therapists have been trained and are receiving ongoing coaching and support in the Reading by Design multi-sensory intervention, and we are seeing student growth. You may recall that special education services are moving, dyslexia services are moving under the special education umbrella. Students and staff have also benefited from the Year 1 Autism Grant funds. Early childhood special education teachers and elementary teachers providing support through the district's structured learning environment setting have received materials, training, support, and ongoing coaching to improve outcomes for students. Parents have also participated in joint training sessions hosted by Northwest ISD, who serves as the fiscal agent for the Autism Grant. In addition to the grant activities, Special Programs has provided informational sessions also through parent academies. The elementary teams program is thriving at Hatley Elementary School, while the secondary teams and Ames programs are preparing to transition to Eagle Mountain High School for the 24-25 school year. We are particularly proud of the growth to our Ames program also. We've added 5 additional community partners for job training and community access, and that program was recently recognized by the city of Saginaw for its beautification project, where they maintain flower beds in the community. Of the 3 areas encompassed in special programs, special education is the only program with specific audit and compliance requirements. Special education program met requirements under the state's results-driven accountability system. Under the federal compliant state performance plan indicators, special education was compliant on indicators 11A, 12, and 13. Indicator 11B was at 95.5% compliance, and that's for timely scheduling of initial ARD meetings, for which we're currently working through a corrective action plan. So some of the timelines, we held all the 793 evaluations were completed within timelines, and we missed about 35 ARD meetings, some due to parent scheduling, others due to inclement weather, some due to human error, and so we're addressing all of those currently. As all of the components continue to see unprecedented growth through grant funding and the resources allocated by the board, we are able to meet staff and student needs. We continue to seek and participate in opportunities to collaborate on university research projects which benefit students and the school community. Our current partnerships are with TCU Department of Education and the University of North Texas Kristen Farmer Autism Center. Last year, we implemented a special program, staff recognition program, to celebrate star performers as nominated by their peers. This program continues to expand, and each month a shining star is selected from the nominees for special recognition. All nominees are recognized in our monthly department newsletter and at the end of the year culminating event. Additionally, I want to acknowledge how grateful I am to the board for allocating the resources needed to meet student needs, and also the opportunity for interdepartmental collaboration that occurs daily. From HR to operations, student services, safety and security, and the business office, everyone has worked together to help address the growth and the complex and growing needs within special programs. Through this collaboration, great things are happening for students and staff, and it would not be possible otherwise. We have also expanded how we are providing campus support to include what we refer to lovingly as our SPICE meetings. So on the general ed side, they have ICE meetings where it's instructional collaboration, and our SPICE meetings are our special ed instructional collaboration meetings where we meet individually with the campus leaders so that we can individualize the support that is needed so they can support students through their special programs. So that is a summary of my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So thank you, Heather, for your hard work, and please let your department know how much we appreciate everything you're doing. I see improvement. I know we still have a long way to go. It's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, as you know, but we appreciate all you're doing. I do have a question about Section 504 students served. So in elementary, it goes to from 570 to middle school to 588. That makes sense to me. Then to high school, it jumps to 820. So where is that number? Are those new people coming in, or where?
I think it's a combination of things, and also we have more students now that are feeding into our high schools, so it's an accumulation over that 4-year period of additional students being added.
It was just a big jump, so I was just, but thank you, and I'm excited to hear about the SPICE meetings and a continued instructional help, and I hope that we can get teachers hired next year so that everybody will be served.
Yes,
and Dr. Tolbert, and feel free to comment on this, Dr. Hughes, but I think also at the high school level, what happens is that since 504 is not required, it's essentially a protection. A lot of those services are being provided without a 504 process, and so people are pleased with that. And I think what happens at the high school level is a lot of people are coached to move to 504 before they go to college, because those same types of things don't happen in college, so they want those protections to follow them in. And I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay.
Because in fact, they're going with my kids in college right now, that actually came up in the conferences, that they said this would be the time to do it. If you're going to come here, then go ahead and get that done before you come.
Right.
So I'm not sure how much of a
fact good point. That's probably true. I'm sure.
And national assessments.
Yes. Oh, that's another one. Yeah, SAT,
You
ACT.
see a bump up due to possible accommodations for national assessments, SAT, ACT, TSIA, and so forth.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to say, comment too, and just say thanks. And I know that this is not it's not easy, and it's growing. And as somebody who has, a child that came through special education services in this district, I mean, I've as an educator been in an ARD meeting on one side of the table, and as a parent been in the ARD meeting on the other side. And so I know that the growing needs are all kinds of different shapes that hadn't been named yet, and so I just want to applaud and say I appreciate the effort of you and your teams to serve kids and meet them where they are and try to find their needs, even when unfunded mandates, kind of tie a hand behind your back. So I just want to say thanks. I appreciate it. I know it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's not easy.
Thank you.
Your questions, comments? All right, thank you, Dr. Hughes. Next, we have adoption of instructional materials. Mrs. Sanders.
Good evening, President Rain, Dr. Chadwell, and Board of Trustees. I am going to share some information with you this evening on Proclamation 2024 for the adoption of instructional materials for career development education. And we had considered the areas of anatomy and physiology, child development. You have a handout. I'm so sorry for not clarifying that. But you have a handout at your desk. We had some additional information that we wanted to share with you. It is in the areas of anatomy and physiology, child development, forensic science, instructional practices, medical terminology, pathophysiology, principles of applied engineering, and principles of education and training. And the total, well, we went through the process of releasing an RFP on November the 15th, and the responses to the RFP were considered by our CTE teachers who teach those particular content areas and a committee of CTE teachers. And the recommendation for those content areas was for anatomy and physiology, McGraw-Hill, child development, the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Science, forensic science was Cengage Learning, instructional practices was the Curriculum Center for Family and Consumer Science, medical terminology was Savas Learning Company, pathophysiology was CEV Multimedia, the Principles of Applied Engineering was Goodhart Wilcox Publisher. Principles of Education and Training, Goodhart Wilcox Publisher. And the total cost would be $83,627.35 per year for 8 years. If you have any questions, there's also an attachment with the information from the RFP scoring.
So I guess they don't necessarily follow one. You switch different publishers, but it was when the switch happened, it was in a different discipline. Is that true, or?
For the publishers for these particular content areas, they changed based on the RFP responses and what we felt like we're going to give that met the criteria that we considered for the rubrics. But each content area had different publishers apply and share their information for the content based on what they provide.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Yes. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our operations reports. Construction update, Mr. Welch.
It seems like every month we're starting to get more things to report on, a lot more pages. So with Eagle Mountain High School this time, we really focused just on the, I'd say the building part of it. We didn't do any of the aerials. We had a lot of rain coming in there, so things have changed on that. They've started laying the sod on the site. More trees have been planted. The DG in between where the parking wells are located, they've started that in the front. So the softball field, just looking here right away, that's the logo, and you're looking at the softball complex. So that's making really good progress, but they still have some work with the seating on the peripherals with the ramps. They started the putting down the tennis courts. They to get that going, and then on the bottom right is the auxiliary field. So that was getting close to being completed. So we did make some progress on those items. Bottom left just shows the asphalt, looking at the field house, all the paving's completed. And then they're putting the gravel. They started working with the prepping the E-layer. So they'll start that here this week as long as we don't get a lot of rain. Rain has really been kind of, we want it, but it's for this project, not right now. But, they've done a lot of good progress on the Dry Creek bed. Got a good skilled person working that. Kind of you can see they've done a lot of good details on that. That's coming together. And then the bottom right just kind of gives us kind of a more higher overview of, it shows the library, the Sky Bridge, and the cafeteria, but the work going on in there. So we're pleased with that progress. So the bottom left, that is, our school colors are not red. That is the fireproofing. But that'll say Knights or Eagle Mountain High School. Now, on each side of that, you can see the turf is near completion there. I think they got a few things to tie up. But it is a beautiful site in there, and that's coming together. So they completed the stairwells on the home stands. You can see those. So the difference, as you can see with this home setup, is when you walk in the gate, you get to see the field from when you walk in. So there are 4 ways to get up to the bleachers on the top, and then you go on a concourse, and you can come up any one of those little, you can go all the way down the concourse if you choose, but it keeps the sight lines and pulls everybody up. And you can see the rock columns have also been wrapped. I thought they came out pretty, I thought they did a good job of those as they have on all of the stonework. Just some more close-ups of the Performing Arts Center, kind of really the one on the right, the diffusers. If you look, that's very similar. And the task was we felt like we did a great job at Chisholm Trail to follow that pattern. So a lot of the same colors in that and the same design.
Mr. Welch, just a note on this one. This looks a little bit more red than it is. Actually, it does match Chisholm Trail. So just to let you know, it's very similar to what you see over there.
Okay, so since you mentioned that, Dr. Chadwell, yes, I agree completely. I'm gonna go back to this. So that the one on the right, the softball, the picture that they gave me, I was in a meeting and it was not gold. It was I would call it orange, but it was the camera. But I did kind of pass out when they did that. But anyway, cameras do play tricks on us. So
I assume those markings and stuff take place like on the indoor, like they have it at Boz, where they've got baseball, softball, all those different markings and stuff. That'll be the same as,
all the same, but any type of thing we can improve on, we put that in place. Sure. So the next slide is just showing the Fine Arts Corridor on the left, kind of, but just one of the offshoots, not the main corridor, but you do get to some of those areas through there. The one in the middle is the main corridor. You can see the ceiling, the lighting. So all that's coming together. And then on the far right are your sound lock practice rooms. And if you notice the flooring, it's covered up already. So once they put the VCT, you're going to see cardboard. So we do that because you got a lot of furniture, you have tools, all those things, just kind of learn through it that you protect them and so they don't get scuffed up. Some lecture hall, you got the small lecture hall, the large, so you have seating in one of them, you got the carpet in the other one, so seating will follow on that one. And then on the right is just a standard academic hallway with the VCT covered up, protected. Cafeteria slides. So just an overview of the ceiling work, the lighting, you have the serving lines, so you've got them where they're covered up, keep the dust off of them. The ceiling grid is in, but the tiles will be one of the last things they do on the overhead, and the bottom right gives a more close-up detail of the actual serving line where the kids will be walking through. And the VCT is covered up on that one. It's gray. It's not brown on this one, but we're pleased with that progress. Okay, so this is really the same slide you saw last month, and as of last Friday at 12 o'clock, it was correct, but we do have a correction on this one. So Friday, we did get a call and we're notified that the city water line has passed all the tests. And why is that important? So we'll turn the valves, we'll have permanent water to our site now. So for after 4 years of working through that with the city, we do have the permanent water on site. So Corps will be going through and making sure all the waterproofing, there's no leaks, and they also work on the fire suppression system, make sure it's up and running, which allows us to get furniture in. So the big one right there where it says field house staff move in, we're looking at June 3rd, which is a Monday, where hopefully all staff, students will start their, if they want to have programs there, they will have access to the field house, stadium, and press box. Any of the other things as far as fields, we'll just kind of keep reporting on that as they come along, but that was really big news. And right now, we really hadn't modified the FF&E on the main building at this point, but again, if we get that opportunity, we'll move everything up. Just some other notes. Today is 24 months, 2 years. So I have the original picture when they just scrape it off, so we've come a long, long ways. So some things when you drive by that you may not have seen. Fleming Ranch is the north-south connector on the east side of the property. Jackson has poured both those lanes all the way from the student entrance on the south, all the way up to Bond Ranch. So they have if you look on, see it's on the west side, they have their concrete batch plant. So they just churn it out once they start. They're only limited to how quickly they can get it there to the hopper. And it starts and it just goes. So that was, 2,200 linear feet in 24 hours. So they move fairly quickly. So they'll start on the front, hopefully weather permitting, looks like hopefully this week. And so it's 3 lanes, so it'll take a little bit, I'll say longer, but we're looking at the middle of April that all our paving should be completed with the approaches that we need to be able to get fire trucks on site if they were ever an emergency or something like that. So
That's including the Bonds Ranch portion? Okay.
That's great.
And that's 3 lanes, you're saying?
it has a turn lane component
2
to
with
it.
a turn?
So they'll do all those, yeah, it'd be a left turn in to get out of the east-west traffic. So we're not holding that up. So really that's your parents, that's your potentially your buses. Really, it's probably not your students because the students, depending on how they do it, it's designed to come in the back way. So there would be a turn lane at the intersection for them. So we tried to limit how much traffic would be up there. But they'll get those all paved and they'll do the approaches, which ties into the existing, what they just poured and where core stopped.
Is there, I can't remember, is there a traffic light signal that will be there in front like
Not
Boston?
at this time, though. It'll be a 6-lane, very large
Yeah,
traffic light. So I think that is being considered on the improvements on Bonds Ranch Road.
so it'll be up to whoever to basically flip what we do to make it the divided, right? Because we're just doing the 3 lanes.
Right, we were required to put 2. We went ahead and put the turn lane in because we know we're going to need that. So the next developer, or if the project with the county is working on, they would put the 2 other lanes on the other side.
Right.
So that temporary asphalt road,
Yep.
when we're done, that goes away.
Right.
We'll pull that out, but when a developer or the county come in, they'll put the other 2 lanes.
That's where that'll end up being.
Yeah, all the way from 1220 to 287 for business. Let's see, some other things. Our fiber, which is important because it's everything you do, you have to have fiber. And so TxDOT has released a permit for that. So from Eagle Mountain Elementary all the way down to 1220, we've got the permit. So they're starting that construction on that. So a lot of things we've been worried about, they've come true. We've hit those deadlines. So we feel good about it so far.
Great.
Okay, Hunter's going to come up and talk about the roof and RTU replacements.
All right. Under the current guidelines of the Environmental Protection Agency, they have discontinued the use of R410A refrigerant and the equipment that utilizes R410A refrigerant in an attempt to reduce greenhouse gases. So what does that mean for us? That means that if we were to adjust and use the equipment that is going to be changed with the new style of refrigerant, R32, R54B, we would then be delayed as far as moving forward with our bond schedule. So what does that look like for us? That means that we have to order equipment before the manufacture date ends, which is December of this year. So what that means for us is that we have to create an early package to order all materials in order to get it in time to start this summer. And that's for a few campuses. So in order to meet shipment dates, it is recommended that the district use a CMAR, Construction Manager at Risk procurement method. This allows the district to create an early equipment package to order all materials prior to construction documents being completed. So we will be recommending the use of the CMAR method so that we can order materials in a timely manner. Any questions?
Yeah, Hunter, we're gonna put in the ones that are going out of date,
That's correct.
and we have to because our equipment wouldn't handle the new, I mean, what happens eventually?
Right.
How long
So
is that gonna last?
there's a couple things to note here. The units that we are actually replacing now and that we have been replacing over the past summers has used R22 refrigerant, which is not only it's the addition before the one that's going out now. So, I mean, we're talking 15, 20 years before the units have to be replaced. So at this point, it makes more sense for us to continue with the R410A units rather than go to a product that, first off, we can't even order until June, July of this summer. It's the first edition. The refrigerant is a flammable product, so there's more life safety issues that have to be implemented in it. And not all that is from our consultants. Not all that is outlined so clearly. So it makes a pretty great impact on us as far as keeping to our construction schedule and understanding what actually is going to be required from a safety standpoint.
Well, I'm all for keeping on our construction schedule, but I don't want to put something in that's we're not going to be able to repair, we're not going to be able to service after.
We'll still be able to repair it.
Yes.
I mean, right now, we currently have, what, 3 or 4 different models over the lifespan, because they, for the longest, you had R22.
Right.
I mean, they don't even produce that anymore, but we still, it gets recycled, it gets used, and there's other products that you can put in there with lubricants to try to make it work. So I think even if, say, we didn't do this and we waited, there's going to be something new probably come down within 5 years. So I think they're always going to be kind of fighting the new model.
Yes, and these units will make it just like the units that we're switching out now that are R22. They'll make it to the next edition from what we've seen in past experience.
And there's no known requirement that they're going to make you switch any earlier than 15 or 20 years. If they're all going to be grandfathered in, that's how they've done it in the past. So far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so Wayside, again, this one's pretty much the same slide as we gave last time. We're still working through that with some city on some traffic. The biggest thing there on the bottom is the logistics plan. We're going to go over that tonight. This kind of basically launches this project for us. After we present this tonight, we're going to meet. We've met with the principal once. We'll meet with them again. Tuesday, we're going to go to campus on Tuesday, Wednesday. So it'll be a constant communication thing, but this becomes real on May 1st for the way that they're going to live for the next 2 years. So it's going to be a shock to the system for everybody involved. Just imagine we have staff that park in the back, no longer can park there. 150, 140, 150 cars, parents picking up every day. Where are you going to put them? There's only so many, about 80 of them that can get into the parking lot. So, there's a lot of things that they're going to have to adjust to for this time period until we're completely done in summer of 2026. So the logistics plan, we worked with our contractor, Pogue, our architect, Bill Kay, our civil engineer, and basically there's some non-negotiables that we have to do. Now, how we do some of those details, that starts with the campus. We know we got some ideas how we're going to communicate this, but we're also going to have to get input from the campus because they may want to operate differently on how they do athletic periods or how they want to modify that. So these are what I show you tonight are basically just the 30,000, 20,000 foot. As far as some of the details and how the campus is going to work it, that's an ongoing thing. And then once they even decide that, I'm sure after a month they'll go, hey, we can probably do this. So I think it'll always be kind of a constant thing. So tonight we're going to talk about the safety and security. That's the major things that we're going to be focusing on in this campus, just because obviously there's construction, but making sure that we keep students and anybody out that's not supposed to be in that construction site off limits, and how we'll monitor that. Communication, work with Megan's team on how we're going to get that out, who the key people are involved in that, and then we'll go through the phasing also.
So you're going to start this before school's out? I mean, we're going to be communicating out a different traffic pattern change for parents?
Correct.
On May 1st?
Correct.
Okay.
If we don't want to do that, then we will not be able to make the new bid date. That's kind of what gets juggled in a perfect world. So, So safety, security, so as far as the construction side, how we're going to put fencing around it, how we're going to keep people out of it. You've got to account for the student walkers. You've got 2 construction entrances off on Decatur. So POG will be working with that. You know, the biggest, longest span is in the morning when the students don't just come at once and walk down the road. They come in at different times. So, you know, probably one of those entrances will be if it is shut, and then we're going to have some type of guard there that, you know, monitors that and shuts the gates so no construction comes out and the kids are trying to walk. You got bikers, and then we have to communicate the traffic plan to the parents and how that's going to work. We've got the police security support, and then we have to navigate through the athletic programs when they going to have new fields, or they have no tennis courts, how they're going to do that, where they're going to go. So we've had some of those conversations already, working through that. One of the things that we feel like we're going to do as far as on the safety part of it, POG's going to have basically a secure camera that any type of movement after hours or during the day that comes up, it's not supposed to be there, they get notified. So then over the weekend or night, if somebody comes into the site that's not supposed to, we'll be notified. So again, just trying to really focus on keeping folks out of that place that don't belong. Our key partners, we got our neighborhood, we have our houses around there, we got the community, we got the campuses, we got Bryson, well, it's down here a little bit. We talked to the city, obviously the operations staff, communications, transportation, and athletics. You know, the transportation has a bus loop, got to make sure all the buses can get there. If they can't, how we're going to modify that. We got, you know, 3 schools, basically 2 schools. We got Wayside, we've got to talk to Bryson also, because as you'll see in one of the phasings, we're proposing that there will be a temporary field over there next to south of the little track. I would not call it typically how we would do a field where it's going to be a practice field. I mean, it's going to have sod on it and it'll have irrigation, but as far as being a leveled site that is how we would normally do it forever, that's not going to be the case here. It's when we're done, we're done. We're not going to tear it up, but as far as spending the money to do all those things, that's not what that would end up being.
There's some use of that piece of land now, isn't there?
I believe they use the track during the school day to do some of that. I'm sure after school they have those community groups play out there on some of the baseball, softball equipment.
I was out there with a couple of them this last week. They're actually where they're, if I understand where you're talking about, that's where they're practicing, is on that piece of land.
And there's nothing going to say that they, I mean, as long as during the school day when Wayside would be practicing, that's the only time I think they couldn't. It's not going to be fenced off or protected in any special way. I mean, it's just going to be, we're grading off the whatever type of, I call it grass or weeds, whatever it is. It just gets graded off and very minimal intrusion to that. So it's not going to be like it's built up and, you know, you're high and you're real low. It's way it's naturally sloped. We'll keep that slope.
If it's a place I'm talking about, you're going to have quite a few parents and kids affected because they go there. PYBSA goes there, probably the Y. I don't know about soccer. I don't know if soccer's there at all.
Well, and we have programs during the day. So you've got the soccer program, you've got the PE that may go over there. I mean, it's going to be also during the daytime. So we've talked with athletics about maybe an alternative side, but again, you're getting in a bus and you're doing that and how much practice time you have. We hadn't ruled it out that they wouldn't do that because tennis has to do that anyway. They're going to get in a bus and they're going to go somewhere. But how we get to the site from Wayside over to Bryson, is it a bus? Is it security guards that walk them over? You know, some of those things we're just going to have to, what's the most convenient for them?
And it sounds like you're saying it's not going to prevent the community from using it, like Mr. Newcomb is suggesting. It's just going to have better grass for them to do. Yeah. We're just going to make
it. There might be some conflicts. Like right. I think if there's softball, they've been there for 5 years. And, I mean, we don't manage those fields. They're right. First come, first serve.
Come, first serve.
Yeah. They're not rentals.
Yeah, they're not rentals.
No.
So.
And we're also losing the one between Old Admin and Wayside that's been used for a long time. Probably being used at this very moment. And that
that backstop is. Okay.
Have we reached out to those groups just to give them a heads up? I mean, I know we don't manage it, but.
No, we started with, this is our first meeting.
Well, I'll say a lot of the.
But we
groups-
will. We'll try to reach out like to the Y
Well,
and
as best as we'll-
PYPSA, as best as we can.
Y
I know
doesn't
that I'm running
practice,
it from-
Y doesn't practice there to my knowledge, but,
Well, I have in the past because I've had a kid on a Y team that's practiced there for sure. So I don't know if they still do, but.
okay.
I think it
Well-
falls under our communication plan. There's numerous community partners that we'll try to reach out to. That's just one spoke of.
We'll do our best, but just to say, I think it's people who find a spot.
Right.
So we'll get the message out, but people find a spot. And I've been there with soccer. You just find a flat spot with some grass and
Yeah.
go, but it's not necessarily scheduled or rented. So we'll do our best to getting the word out.
Consider PYPSA notified, and that's starting when?
May 1.
May 1st.
There you go.
Consider notified.
Take care of that one.
Going back to, this slide here is phase 1, and it shows where the temporary field will be located over at Bryson. And so you see Bryson in blue, you see Wayside in blue. Focusing really on the part where you have Wayside in the red, that's where the fencing will be located. And the yellow, that'll be where the building construction will be taking place. And then you see some of the new paving in there. It's a different color than the asphalt. And the football field is the lay-down yard for the construction.
So tennis obviously going somewhere else, and I guess that's just when you're talking about the track over there, that's that kind of loop around there. So that'd be a logistics potentially having to go up to Boswell or something like that to have track practice and stuff in the spring.
On field events, they'll, have to probably go find
Yeah,
a
yeah.
place once
Okay.
a week, something like
Yeah.
that. Sure. No, it's got its logistical challenges. It's not going to be convenient.
Yeah.
Nothing part about this is convenient, for sure. The entrances for the Wayside build.
Mr. Welch, on the positive side, I've been in a situation where you lost half your building and you had to walk through construction areas to another building. And this is far superior to be able to have people go in one semester to one building and the very next semester go into a brand new building.
We've done that at Boswell.
Yeah, and so all this is very stressful, but I just want to underscore the fact that we're very fortunate that we're able to do that using the whole site. And he mentioned earlier about the bus versus walking. We're actually talking with our coaches about that because depending on the perspective, it may be much easier just to walk as part of what you're doing. By the time you load people and do everything, that takes a lot of time. So we're looking at both options. Either one that is desired by our coaches, then we'll do that. And then we'll have a way to get people back if you had to get a student back that was injured or something like that. And then so we're looking at all those options right now.
And storage, you'll have to have storage over there
Yes.
for things they would have to practice with. So and we've had some of those initial conversations. They've been good. The biggest thing is just realize it's just not going to be easy.
Means progress.
Any questions over red fence? Stay out.
So the two construction, are you going to go with the construction entrances and they're both off of Old Decatur?
They're both off Old Decatur, trying to limit that.
And that one is kind of where old administration is, I guess?
Yes, where the
Okay.
office, that's one we probably, during stress times where we feel like there'd be more traffic in front, that's probably one we'll use and close the other one. But again, Richard will just have to figure that out as we go on that. But if it's next to the office, you've got people there already, so that's a tendency to be more monitored. So,
And then the other entrances for the parents and the buses how are they changing?
well, the bus really, in theory, if they're actually using the bus loop, that would not change except the space. They've probably got too many buses, so we'll have to figure out how we're going to do that. As far as the front, we will modify potentially some of how we stack that. We've had conversations with the principal, but the majority of the stacking is going to be on the road. We've talked to the fire department numerous times about this. They've been very helpful in how we'll deal with that traffic because they're going to be just cars, and if they need to come there, they'll just work on through that, and people exit out onto Bailey Bottle.
That's about how it works in the mornings anyway, as
You
it
really
is.
won't, I mean, I don't think.
That's not gonna change. It's just that, I mean, the afternoon's the bigger one where people go on to the admin building and
Right.
pick up. But in the morning, it really is the stack up of that's fairly normal.
Well, and we're gonna try to make where we don't have deliveries during the morning and when school gets out.
That's probably really, really good idea.
Good, I'll hold you to that, Richard.
He said try.
Yeah.
And just for those of you that may not know, Richard's going to be our superintendent there on site, and he's been a part of building several buildings, including Marine Creek Middle School. So he just has to inverse everything.
Yeah.
Other than that, we're good.
About 6 years.
Yes.
So I guess the fire loop has to be kept up
Yes,
for the city, so, I mean,
that's one of the first things we have to put in is the, Richard, you want to talk about the fire loop? Just-
As far as around the building or?
Well, we're going to have to always keep that connected because they have to get to the new
Yeah,
construction, so
well,
that.
even though we've got a fence there, we will have a gate that will stay locked all the time. And then we'll give the
fire department key.
Yeah.
Give them the combination if they need to get in there.
Then when we get to the second phase, we've got to pour over one summer, the rest of the fire loop when we're tearing down the wayside, and it's kind of a coordinated effort there to get that done.
Question, Clete.
Yes.
As far as the pickup, I see, like Blake said, the admin, a lot of people use that to pick up their kids at Wayside, including myself, used to. Is there any way that Bryson, since they'll be out of school at that time, is there any way to help get those kids across the road? Because parents are going to be creative on how they pick their kids up, so I could see them certainly using Bryson. Any way to help with security guards, something to help those kids cross the road there? Because they're probably not going to go down to that light. Like right across where that field is, on the west side of the road. Have we thought about that at all? Maybe helping kids get across the road there? Because that's probably where parents are going to end up parking.
Yeah.
Maybe
We can
let's
look-
try to think about it.
We can look at that. I think the concern there would be at that time of the day, the traffic going both ways is really bad. If it was in the middle of the day, I would say it's, because with the athletic movement, that wouldn't be a big deal during the day. It's the pickup time is what I would be worried about.
To William's point, if it is bad traffic, that would be all the more reason to make sure the kids are
Probably gonna
protected,
do
and
it,
they're
yeah.
probably going to cross anyway. if
We
the
probably
parents
won't
go
let
there.
them cross.
Okay, so we'd have to stop it.
Bridge.
or-
No, we'll have to stop it.
Quick bridge.
I mean, we're probably going to have to stop it from
That's the answer.
happening. But your point's taken is people will make choices that put kids' lives in jeopardy out of convenience, and we're going to have to be really restrictive in that area.
I'm sure some will go across to the EECU and the dentist and the things.
7-Eleven, I'll pick you up at
And you
7-Eleven.
got about 70 kids across that intersection every day.
All day?
Yeah,
Okay.
I see them all the time. Yeah, walkers.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking out loud, but okay. Let's think about it.
Chick-fil-A is gonna get more crowded.
Yeah, I think they'll really be real creative on how they do that. Yeah. Any other questions on this one? I can come back to it later, but I'll jump to phase two. if that's- So phase two, again, it has some of its challenges also. So if we meet this schedule in December 25, we'll move the existing staff and students over into the Wayside school replacement. The red would be where the fence would be located, and the building has to be abated. So that's we'll start immediately, and it'll go all the way through the summer until we get that. That building has to go away. Tennis courts, football field, parking lot. If you notice in this, there is no Wayside big parking lot for the gym because it's not in this phase. So that's a summer deal. So when we talk about student pickup and buses, well, phase two is a different mode of picking up and how that works. So that'll be another hurdle that we have to go through once we get to that point. So
Are those the expected entrances into the replacement school? Those three that are?
I would say that's very rough because we're still working with the city on that, on how we want to do that. It's a challenge, trying to make sure because our goal is to get the vehicles off the road. But I would say right now, those two, no, because that's not the finished one.
Okay. Because I would think you'd have trouble going south.
Yeah, you got to figure out where traffic's going to turn a right and how you're going to get across Old Decatur. And you have to, when you do that, you have to have a broken median to get through that. And you're going to have some way that something out there is allowing those parents to cross that road. If not, they're never going to get out of the parking lot.
Right.
So we're either going to have hire personnel, have safety, security, whatever that is, that mode is, but we'll have to have some form of traffic control to get parents out and stop traffic. Even if we had a lot there, somebody has to operate it so it kind of like it does at Chisholm Trail, it stays on for an extended amount of time. So either way we go, it has to be monitored.
And will the north side have an entrance at all off of Bailey Boswell? Looks like it's all construction.
This is the second part of the phase 2.
Okay.
So you can see the lot you were asking about. So after hours, they could go anywhere. But right now we're still trying to figure out the best way to stack parents. But every scenario, there's a consequence to it that you don't like. So, and some of that all stems on how do you get the parents out of, if you try to change something, then how do you get them out of Old Decatur and, because a right and left turn.
Who owns that? City of Saginaw. The City of Saginaw owns that on the south side, the park there?
It's the Houston Park.
Houston Park. Lots of green space there.
Those are soccer fields. There's a parking lot right there on Park.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
It's not very large.
No.
Yeah. But that's our challenge. And we'll work on through it and it'll, like I said, we'll adapt several different times, but we'll just try to communicate the best we can and keep it up. And it's for 2 years. So
it's going to be great when it's done.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
But, I think we've had numerous conversations with Richard and his staff. We know they know how important we feel about it, and it's just going to have to be a more vigilance and as far as keeping that to the site, keep people out that don't need to be in there, and just dealing with traffic, dust, keeping mud off the road, all those things, keeping your stormwater on site so that the mud doesn't go down the road or the back. I mean, it'll be constant.
And this is just a factor that I know Pogue knows, and they did this at Marine Creek when they built that facility. A clean work site affects a lot of this. So on days like this last weekend, when it's really muddy and trucks are coming in and out, they did a really good job controlling this site, and we're going to obviously expect the same. And I know y'all will deliver the same for this site. It'll even be more so because of the amount of traffic coming around that area. So I think that's a huge part of it, is that partnership between the two of us. And making that clear and doing that, and also just make sure those expectations are kept throughout the project, particularly with walkers and pedestrians. And like they said, you may remember what he said a few moments ago, we're closing those gates at certain times of the day so that we don't have that conflict. So, and we'll be using additional police presence there as well, our own police department, to manage the site as well.
That detention pond that's shown on the final phase 2 drawing, is that where the property naturally slopes to, that corner?
Yes. So right now we have 3 of them that are all across the property that really probably needs to be better coordinated. That's the reason it needs to be in one location and be metered differently to not just put too much water on the existing streets as we currently are.
So you got the park on one side, and then I guess to the west is to the east is houses.
It's all houses. There's a flume that runs from our site.
Oh yeah.
Through the 2 houses and into the street, basically is how it works. But there is some green site on this area, so hopefully right now it's just an asphalt parking lot, so it just runs down that, and so hopefully we'll pick up more absorption there than we normally currently do over there on the old admin area.
Thanks for work on it. I know this stuff ain't easy. And thanks to the community for supporting the the funds, the bond funds to make this stuff happen. The kids, the teachers, the community needs this. It's obviously a painful process to get there, but good night.
Be worth it.
It's going to be worth it. So.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to go ahead and break for closed session now because we have a very full closed session agenda. So it is currently 5:55 on March 25th, and this board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act. Section 551.071 for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney. Section 551.072 for the purpose of deliberating the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.074 for the purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. Section 551.076 for the purposes of deliberations regarding the deployment of specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices or security audits, in section 551.0821 to discuss specific personal identifying information about a student. Thank you. Eagle, are we on? This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening in the public meeting on March 25th at 7:08 p.m. and will now consider the subjects set forth in the posted agenda. All right, welcome to our March meeting. Thank you all for being here, and I apologize we got out a little bit late of closed session. We had a very full agenda for closed session today, but we are ready to get started here. So let's move right into the opening ceremony with Lake Point Elementary. Ms. Heiser.
Hey,
Look at
they're
them.
ready.
Darling.
I didn't get back.
This is good.
Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, and members of the board. It is an honor this evening for Lake Point Elementary to present the opening ceremonies for tonight's school board meeting. It is my privilege to introduce to you 5 exceptional students who epitomize the spirit and excellence of Lake Point Elementary. Rory Marshall, 1st grade. Her parents are Miranda and Cameron Marshall. Rory enjoys playing outside. She loves her dogs and cat and likes being kind to others. Rory exudes kindness every single day. She contributes significantly to creating a warm and supportive environment in her classroom. She has a hug and wave for others in the morning when she arrives to school. Knox McWhorter, kindergarten. His parents are Jennifer and Christopher McWhorter. Knox loves flags and playing with Spider-Man toys. He likes to play flag football. One day in class, he was learning about the pledges. The next day, he wore a shirt with a flag on it, and he had such pride for his shirt. Knox looks forward to learning every day with his friends and showing kindness to all. Eris Brown, 4th grade. Her parents are Delia and Ricky Brown. Eris is on the UIL spelling team. She loves to make others laugh and shows kindness to all. She loves learning. Eris is such a kind owl. She is a hard worker who seeks understanding and meets every expectation given to her. Jasmine Williams, 4th grade. Her parents are Demetra and Julius Williams. Jasmine loves using her creativity. She is a published author of the book Cheese War. She loves reading, writing, and helping others. Jasmine follows the owl way and always tries her best. She is constantly seeking understanding and showing kindness to others. And Parker Gow, 4th grade. His parents are Jennifer and Jonathan Gow. Parker enjoys playing outside with his friends. He enjoys karate and learning new games in karate like flag sparring. He has determination and grit to understand and grow. He is always looking out for others with the expectations of being an owl. He is always kind and friendly.
Stand for the flag of the American flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for a pledge to the Texas flag.
honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And now for our moment of silence. Thank you.
So cute. Nice job.
Very nice job. Thank you.
Possible.
All right, now we have some special recognitions. Mr. Abisham.
President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, School Board Trustees. It was an exciting night to represent and present our state champion, Saginaw High School junior, Francis Arroyo. I hadn't even read all the good stuff yet. She won the Texas High School Women's Powerlifting State Meet in the 165-pound division held in Frisco, Texas in March. As the 5A Division I champion, she totaled 990 pounds for 3 lifts. Squat, 400. Bench, 215. Deadlift, 345, which is a personal record. Is that correct? That is incredible. Wow. Good job. Her closest competitor, she beat her by 25 pounds. So she ran up the score, basically. Come on. Let's go. So this fell her sophomore year, where she got a silver medal, won second place in her division, which is incredible. At the completion of next year for Saginaw, she wants to live competitively at Midland University in Nebraska. She is joined today by her mom, Esther Reyes, and her aunts, Abby Reyes and Cassandra Marquez. Her 2 powerlifting coaches, and these guys are awesome, Tony Pianis and Hector Herrera. We'd like to present our state championship crew.
All right, that concludes our special recognitions and introductions. So if that is what you were here for, now is a nice time to sneak out while we move back to our reports that we did not finish earlier. You're welcome to stay if you like to, but you're also welcome to sneak out. As we move back to our reports, we were to the Gold Star Transportation update. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, President Ring, trustees, and Dr. Chadwell. That's awesome to follow that with transportation. That's great. So just give you a brief update on the status of Gold Star. So the current agreement that we're in started at the beginning of the 2021-2022 school year. It was a 5-year agreement, which consisted of an initial 3-year term and then 2 1-year options that were annually renewable. So we are currently in the final year of that first 3-year term. We will be bringing to you next month for your review and then consideration the opportunity to renew with Gold Star for the 2024-2025 school year. Within the agreement, it also allows for a CPI increase, the Consumer Price Index. You've seen me each year I come back, whether it's a renewal or whether it's just an extension of sort. You'll see me come back with a CPI increase. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has not yet released the DFW market yet. The website says that they're projecting that to be released on April the 10th. So once that's released, then Gold Star will go through and do their budget, and then operations will meet with them and discuss what proposed rate increase that we want to bring back to you guys for consideration in April. So to give a little bit of update kind of on where we are as far as drivers and monitors, we all know that that's been a challenge over the last couple of years. The manpower issue is somewhat lightening up some, and we're able to get more people in. Currently, as of right now, Gold Star's only 5 drivers short, and they have 4 drivers that are going through testing to drive or whatever. So we are dangerously close to actually being fully staffed on the driver's side. They're short 3 monitors, and that they don't have anybody in the pool yet for that, but they're continuing to try to work to get those filled. So still short, but significantly different and much improved from where we were high into the double digits on driver shortages. Lastly, just to go over just very briefly on the Smart Tag update. So all of the equipment, the brackets, the hardware, all of that has been installed into the buses, so that's all ready to go. All buses are outfitted. The training is actually starting tomorrow on the use of the tablets. But the main thing that we're still waiting on, so Tyler Technologies, which is the company, the parent company to Versatrans, that's Gold Star's routing company. Tyler Technologies and Smart Tag, their 2 IT departments are going through what they call the API. It's the application process programming interface. So it's basically, in layman's terms, that's just the data going back and forth. So that is the longest process, supposed to be the longest process of it, just to make sure that, because we're the transfer of data, obviously if the tablets don't have correct information, then obviously the system's not really going to work the way it's supposed to be. And since we are transporting such a delicate commodity, we want to make sure that we get that right, and then we get the right students to the right place. So that's going on right now. The goal that has been communicated to them, and the goal that I tried to set the expectation for, is that we have as much time this school year as possible to pilot the system, and that however many schools that we choose, that'll be something that we discuss and talk and decide on. But the goal is to try and get as much time, get that in place to where we can pilot it, hopefully for maybe a full month before this school year is over, so that we can kind of see how the system works. People can start to get acclimated to it. And we can iron out any bugs, if there are going to be any, that we can iron those out this year, so that in the fall we'll be able to roll that out more, either fully. Again, a lot of those things will kind of depend on, we'll see how things go, whatever. But that's the current goal right now. So that's kind of what's going on in Gold Star.
Just a question. It feels like, you correct me if I'm wrong, did this take longer than we anticipated? And if so, why?
No, it did, absolutely. So there was, it wasn't just the interface, it was actually getting the legal part of it for the interface that took, it seems like, forever. The 2, so Tyler Technologies and Smart Tag, went back and forth with the red line lawyer draft for months, just trying to get each party to agree to it. So, and the difference being, because there are other districts that use that, but they are either, they're not using the same system as Gold Star, or their system is, like for us, Gold Star, the Versatrans, what am I trying to say? It's remote, it's not on site. So that was also a difference. And so it went back and forth, and yes, it took considerably longer than what we had anticipated. Our hope was to try and get something out to where we could pilot it earlier this year, to where by the end of this school year, that we could already be in full force, because we piloted it early on. And it just, we didn't even get, we really didn't even get the documents. I keep saying it was between their 2. Gold Star really wasn't even involved from that standpoint. I mean, I would talk with the VP of Gold Star, and we would try and put pressure on them from that standpoint. But we didn't even get that done until it was before Christmas break. So, and we were wanting to be live right at the beginning of the school year, which was September. And so that kind of started at that point. Then the ball started really rolling, because all the other stuff really was somewhat contingent upon that. Simply because if they really couldn't arrive at an agreement on that, there was always that potential that the deal wouldn't have gone through. And so they really weren't wanting to start everything else until that got ironed out.
And Gold Star, to their credit, talking about the pressure part of it, they were even getting to the point where they were willing to move away from Versatran as their routing software in order to make this happen. They were committed to the project enough to change their whole platform if that's what was required. And we think that really helped because when they saw how serious they were, that they were willing to make that change, they got motivated on that side. And of course, SmartTag is trying to expand, and didn't help that this project has been delayed.
Yes.
So we do want to move, like he said, we don't want to wait until next year for a pilot. We want to start the pilot now, so we'll be in a better position starting in the next school year.
And as we don't anticipate this type of lead time as routes change and new route, this is a one-time phenomenon.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, it was just a setup.
What it is about the API is they're sharing proprietary information on their software platforms. And they don't want to do that because they're protecting their information and protecting their ownership of that. And so that's something that they have to be really careful about when these companies are going to share. The word I was looking for is intellectual property. And once they establish what those parameters were and protections of sharing the intellectual property, they were willing to move forward.
Yes. Yeah, because Tyler Technologies actually has their own product that does it.
That's the other part of it.
And so that was the biggest thing. So they didn't want to let anybody behind the curtain.
Do you remember back when Apple had their word processing software and Microsoft had Word, but there was a point in time where they realized they couldn't coexist in the same universe unless they worked, and now Microsoft provides Word for Mac because that's the standard for word processing. It's kind of like that. They had to get to a point to realize that we've got to work together. Even though they have their own system, we don't like that system, and we wanted to go with SmartTag. And so they were willing to give up, I guess, their own product in order to look at the bigger picture.
Any other questions?
Since we've, because I know it's been a while with all this, I mean, any others that are using it, other issues and things that have come up? I mean, I guess you just stay in communication with them as far as, was it Northwest, right?
Northwest,
using
yeah, not really issues. I mean,
positives, I guess, maybe
yeah.
Issues are probably beneficial that they were able to work some kinks out, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm still in contact with that gentleman over there. They did a pilot also, and so they didn't roll it out all at once. He said about, by and large, I mean, there's a few hiccups here and there, but overall, I mean, he said it's nothing major. It's just really more, the hiccups were more just trying to adapt it to the way Northwest wanted it. I mean, to kind of make it their own, put their thumbprint on it. Could they do this? Could they do that? And then once they got those things out, but he said across the board, they're very pleased with the overall service level that the product provides.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
We have a bond projects update, Mr. Lee.
All right. Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, members of the board. It's a really exciting time as far as it pertains to bond projects here at Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD. A lot to discuss tonight, so I'm going to run through these bullet points. If you have any questions or you want to stop at any specific point, please just stop me and feel free to ask questions. But one thing that people might have wondered is how are we concluding the 2017 bond? And I'm excited to share what we're doing, starting off with Saginaw High School. We finished the rooftop unit replacements that was slated for partially last summer, and then we concluded it this spring. We will then begin design discussions for the field house renovations in the summer of 2025. And then audio video upgrades for the PAC, that'll also be done by the spring of 2025. Then when we get to Marine Creek Parkway, the traffic signal, we're pushing the city, the contractor hard to get the majority of the work done this summer, so we're not an inconvenience to not only this facility, but Marine Creek Middle School next year. That project is slated to be finished in December of 2024. Highland Middle School, we started on the roofs last summer. We'll be finishing with replacing all the rooftop units. 88 units for that campus will be done this summer, 2024. Saginaw Elementary School will also be replacing all the HVAC system pieces for that campus. Creekview Middle School, they have 96 rooftop units that we'll be replacing by helicopter this summer. And then we have 14 campuses where we're just working on some drive-up appeal, adding some landscaping, mow strips, benches, things of that nature. That's at Comanche Springs, Eagle Mountain Elementary, Gilliland, Greenfield, High Country, Lake Point, Northbrook, Parkview, Remington Point, Willow Creek, Ed Wilkie Middle School, Prairie Vista Middle School, Saginaw High School, and Chisholm Ridge Elementary. Next, we'll be adding Eagle Mount Saginaw ISD building letters to all of our campuses, identifying which campuses are ours because we want to show them off. And then for Gilliland Elementary, we'll be renovating the courtyard alongside with the front of the campus as well too.
Is that the courtyard that's named after the teacher that passed away?
It is.
We're going to respect that.
Absolutely.
Naming, okay.
The monument will remain, and we will we work through that design piece. The natatorium, the design is in process with the YMCA. Construction is scheduled to begin sometime at the end of this year. I just want to make a note on that piece is that the YMCA has roughly $2.5 million that they need to spend by the end of the year or they lose that money. So the portion of that will actually be allocated towards design fees, architect fees, and any sort of site clearing or site prep that they can accomplish with those funds.
Are we going to approve the construction project, or are they going to be in charge of it and we're just providing the land and some of the seed money?
Yeah, I think we're still working all that out.
We'll sign off on any building. In fact, Mr. Welch and I are leaving on Thursday night pretty late to go out to South Carolina to see a facility, a natatorium there. And the reason why is it uses a modular construction. And it would greatly reduce the expense there and maybe could fall within the budget parameters that we have. Of course, we have our $5 million, they have $2.5 million. We're hoping to secure an additional $5 million that we believe may be coming through, plus anything they finance. And with those dollars, that number could come down to a point where they could build an natatorium first. The YMCA has made a commitment to build a natatorium before the YMCA facility, because they don't have a natatorium. They have a swimming pool, but not a natatorium. They do have a actual Y, of course, and so they made that commitment. So Mr. Welch and I are going to fly out on Thursday morning and come back on Friday, and going to see this facility out in Spartanburg, South Carolina. So that's, we're hoping that it would provide another option to bring that cost down to fall within those parameters.
Well, there was a lot, when we were working with the city of Saginaw and serving on those committees, there was a lot of discussion about who was going to decide what. Is that already been worked out with the Y?
As far as who pays like for the maintenance and operational expenses?
Yeah, just who gets to design the.
Well, it's not in a contract yet. Before any dirt would be changed to our turn, we would have a contract completed.
We'll have a contract before they begin.
Yes, when I say contract, more of an MOU
type thing
between the two. But in premise, they understand now that anything that they do would be signed off on by us. So that goes for the size of the pool, it goes for the aesthetics of the facility, how many parking spots we have. Everything will be a consensus between the two entities before any dollar is spent.
It's going to be right out here.
Yes, sir. So when you
they're going to be working on our property.
Yes. Correct. So as you come into the facility, the immediate right there, as you come into Mustang Rock, it'll be right there. And so we have some preliminary site plan examples, but they're all just examples, just to see what kind of footprint will fit on that site. But we have been working with them very closely. But until we get the budgetary parameters, we're not going to finalize any kind of contract agreement because we need to know how extensive this pool is going to be.
Did that come back before us? Anyway?
Yes, you'll see it. You'll see this well before the date before we turn dirt, or they turn dirt. And the site prep really is, they need to expend those $2.5 million. That is really had to do with the timeline on those dollars. Those are federal dollars that went through the county and were approved, ARPA money, if I remember correctly. And those dollars have to be approved within or expended during a certain period of time. And that is really more site prep. And so nothing.
Tree clearing and a lot of the permitting and things.
Is the land remaining ours?
Yes.
Correct.
Whatever they do would be ours.
Correct. Our preliminary agreement has that, and I say preliminary because nothing's finalized, but our plan is that the property remains ours and that the ownership of the pool would be owned by the YMCA on our property with a long-term agreement that we would have access to it.
So I don't want to be misleading to the public though on this. If we talk about there's some money that has to be spent, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the start and we're going forward from that point building what's the realistic timeline when a natatorium might actually be in place?
I wouldn't say that until we've defined what the budgetary parameters are, because.
Okay, then I guess what I'm saying is I don't want it to be misleading to somebody to think we're starting to turn dirt and there's going to be a natatorium a year late. I mean, we're not to that point. We're trying to spend some money here.
While it's true that construction would begin in the site prep, the ending date is indefinite right now. We don't have that set.
I think their tour of this existing facility is an important process that needs to take place. Then after that, we can start discussing design and.
Because that's going to dictate what type of construction it is, which then.
Exactly. And for example, and this is why we're going out to see it. We've seen pictures of this modular construction. I'm not going to be comfortable with that until I lay eyes on it personally. And Mr. Welch is the same. We want to see how this works. Now, it will not be a full-blown, what we think of an aquatic center people are building, because that's not what's been funded. We went out for that. Obviously, that wasn't successful. We have our $5 million plus the YMCA's money and anything that they finance. And so we're bringing that number down, and it'll probably be a lot more basic in terms of what you normally have, but we're focusing on the size of the pool and the ability to have a practice space. Hopefully small tri-meets, hopefully, but primarily a training space for our students.
Is anybody from the Y going with you to look at this?
They sure are. Mike Brown, who's executive director, and there's 2 others, I think, that are going out there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're going out there as a team, and they picked the site, but we also wanted to see one that was similar to what we would do in scope here.
It's not their facility, not a YMCA facility?
Is that a YMCA facility? I can't. I think it may be.
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay, I'll confirm that, but we were looking at several. This particular modular construction they've done in a number of different areas, but I believe this one's a Y. We'll confirm that. Take plenty of pictures, send them to you.
All right, now moving to the 2023 bond, Proposition A. I know we've talked a good bit about Wayside Middle School, but just kind of rehashing out some of the significant dates that we're going to hit. The demolition, that's starting at the beginning of May. Early grading, that's going to be starting in June. And then the final building package is going to be released to start in July. Last summer, we went in and we put in a secured buzz-in system at all of our elementary schools. We're going to be doing that to all of our secondary campuses. That'll be completed this summer. If you don't know, just to make you aware, that system is the reception now has a button that they would actually buzz in folks from the vestibule. So we have glass doors where we can see who's at the front, and the receptionist has the ability to see if it's a threat or not, and then allow them in to the reception area. And then something that I'll be bringing to you later today for approval is playground resurfacing at Elkins, Bryson, Chisholm Ridge, High Country, Comanche Springs, Gilliland, and Northbrook. So we're taking out the wood fiber infill and the plastic border and putting in a nice turf surface, synthetic grass surfacing for the playground. And then for next summer of 2025, we're going to hit the remainder of the elementary schools and complete those. Gym floor replacement, that's also coming to you this afternoon at Chisholm Ridge, Comanche Springs, Lake Point, Parkview, Remington Point, and Northbrook. That's going to be done this summer. And then carpet replacement, Ed Wilkie, Lake Point. And then also, just to capitalize this summer off, we'll be replacing marquee signs at Chisholm Trail and Boswell High School. So that's what we got slated for this summer. And then following the next summer, we have Highland Middle School, Creekview Middle School, Ed Wilkie, Parkview Middle School. We'll then be replacing those signs as well. Ag Science, design is underway. We're scheduled to start construction in the spring of 2025. I know we talked about the location for the natatorium, but just to the south of that, kind of where you see this hill here is where we're planning on having our Ag Science building. Really excited for that project. And then on to Saginaw High School, looking to start the design of the scene shop, also in the summer of 2025, along with the field house. Boswell High School, we've got replacement of rooftop units and roofing scheduled for 2025. We'll discuss a little bit more about that later tonight. And then along with that for 2026, replacement of chiller and boilers for that campus as well. And then we've got 5 elementary schools that have, chiller, boiler, mechanical equipment that are scheduled to be replaced, and that is also to be done the summer of 2025. And then Bryson Gilliland, they need new roofs, they need new mechanical units. That's scheduled for the summer of '25. And then we have the remainder of the carpet replacements that are just on that replacement cycle, Northbrook, Parkview, and Remington Point. Safety security camera additions, that's scheduled to be completed in the summer of 2025. So far, we've done additions at all the elementary schools. We've only done the exteriors at our secondary campuses, and so we'll be coming back with another roughly, 400 to 500 cameras for all of our secondary campuses next summer. Highland Middle School, we have an ADA walk path down to the football field that we're going to want to install. That'll be done in the summer of 25. And then Middle School 7, designed to begin in the winter of 2025. So a lot of exciting stuff there. Any questions as far as it pertains to Proposition 8?
Just one update on Middle School 7. Depending on how Wayside, the pricing comes in on that and our bonding capacity, where that says winter of 25, that would probably be moved up 9 months on that schedule. So if we can get favorable conditions, we want to move forward with that.
Would it be a similar design? Are we planning on it being?
It'll be the prototype.
So we could save money on it.
Yes, sir. All right, now talking about Proposition B, the technology portion. We've been in close coordination with Kirk Murdoch and his team. So the first part of Prop B is going to be the network switches over at Chisholm Trail High School. That's the equipment that connects all of the data outlets where you plug in your computers, the WAPs, to get Wi-Fi to our main network system. Hyper Converged Storage, it's just a refresh of the data center main server system. Over at Dozier Elementary, they don't have our current standard display board, and so already 8 of those have been replaced. We're going to go through and then get them up to the standard that we have as the Promethean board is what we call it. iPads, replace older equipment to support pre-K through second, just student growth, and then computer lab refresh. As you can see here, labs at elementaries that are 6 years old and used in special rotation. Also labs at middle schools and high schools used in classrooms for various classes requiring computers. You can see the programs below there. And then our Meraki license renewal licenses for wireless radios district-wide. It was originally purchased in 2019. This license is required for our network to run and operate from a wireless standpoint. And so we'll be replacing radios over the next 3 years at each campus.
What is E-rate?
It's a federal reimbursement program, and you go through a process of getting reimbursement. Kirk, anything you want to add to that? You have to go through a process of getting things identified and refunded, and we go with the consultant.
The $2 you pay on your cell phone bill every month. And you turn it back around and use the help schools and libraries, pay for internet and network connectivity and wireless and stuff.
That makes me feel better about that on my cell phone bill.
Any more questions about Prop B while Kirk's still standing up? No.
I guess the question on the Dozier replacement of the touch displays, you said that was industry standard, but do we have those at all of our elementaries?
We do. The
So
Promethean
Dozier's the
board
only one that just didn't because when we built it, we didn't put them in, or?
No, we did put them in. What that was is that was our first interactive board. And so they were our very first site. They were actually the cutting edge at the time. Everybody else had a projector, but go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah.
Dr. if y'all remember when we had y'all out,
Yeah.
that was our pilot school that we wanted to try them, and the model we put in was first generation. And I think we're putting in version 7s now. So just like everything else. Over the course of this year, we've replaced 8, I believe, that have just failed, stopped working, went black. So on the campus with 38, I believe, I think there's 42 total with peak and everything. We're just gonna go ahead and replace them like we have all the other campuses. And that's part of our bond replacement schedule, is just start to roll them out incrementally, so we don't have to do like we did the first time and do 1,200 all at once. We're gonna try to stage them out.
Did we get the life we expected on them? Is it what we
Yeah,
expected?
I
Okay.
mean, It's, were they almost 10 years old?
And they're pretty cutting edge when we got them, and when we decided for a different standard, we went with Promethean. Between this and when we bought Promethean, Promethean had an interactive board, but it was through a projector. If you remember, you had to have them aligned and all this, it'd be perfect. So Promethean came out with that product, and it's been really stable. And we have actually updated those systems. Do you mind talking about how they're PC back now?
Right, we replaced the brains behind them once already. We're already looking at the next round. But the usage of them has been unbelievable. I mean, other than the COVID period where we didn't use them, so we kind of got almost a year warranty back for them. But other than that, they're used every day, all day. You know, our expectation that we didn't need them in fine arts and we didn't need them in the gym and those kind of things got completely blown out of the water because they use them as much or more than anybody else. So we have them everywhere now.
I want to go back to something you said, because what's really great about this is the TV itself will actually, the board will last a lot longer than the wiring. So if you've ever bought a smart TV, then upgraded, but the old software, you can't upgrade it because it's kind of stuck with the TV. In this case, we actually update the PC behind it, and now it's operating basically like a large computer. It can run any of our network systems, anything we allow it to do. And our technology team did all that. So it's going to make the life of those products last a lot longer. So we've been really pleased with that.
Great job, technology department.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you all. Exciting times.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, that brings us to finance. Mr. Welch.
All right. Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, Board of Trustees. Tonight, I would like to bring you some additional information regarding the status of state funding, since we have just recently presented information regarding our local district budget and the funding challenges for the 2024-2025 school year. We did that at the February 26th regular board meeting, as well as a budget workshop on March 4th. And with no major developments since those meetings, let's take a look at what's happening at the state level that is contributing to the funding challenges that school districts across the state are experiencing.
Do we have time for all that?
You know,
already 8 almost.
I know, sir. It's one of those things that we could spend days on. We really could. But I'll try to wrap this into a few points for everybody to quickly understand and try to keep it at a high level for us. To begin with, Texas Education Agency just recently released their 2023 annual report. Within that report, they show that their latest year of data, which is for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, it has a total spending of $14,928 per student. If we take a deeper look at that number, we'll see that it does not equate to the sustainable funding that makes it actually to the district level. And so, looking at this chart, again, seeing the $14,928 on that top line, if you look at what's spent by other entities outside of the school districts, that's going to be Wyndham Schools, the regional service centers, all the state vendors for all the products that the TEA purchases on behalf of, as well as the federal vendors that they utilize, and then TEA's admin cost. That totals $1.1 billion or $204 per student. Debt service assistance, and so this is on the INS side for those districts, whether it's EDA funding or IFA funding, it's outside of our day-to-day operational costs. And it's distributed across districts differently. It's not an even amount or an amount that districts receive per capita per student. So we pull that out because that, again, doesn't affect our operational costs, our day-to-day paying salaries and in educating students. That's $1,699 per student, or a total of $9.2 billion. Then in that 14,928 number that TEA released, that includes $4.7 billion of ESSER money, which was temporary money funded through, brought through from the federal government, and is temporary. Those dollars expire, they're going away, and that's not sustainable state funding to school districts. That's $875 per student. They also included in that number what the federal free lunch program provides, and that's $3.5 billion coming through the USDA program. That's $649 per student. And then they also included the TRS pass-through, the monies that the state contributes directly into the TRS system on behalf of our participants and our employees on behalf of the district. Those are dollars that, while we will show those on our financial statements, those are dollars that never come to the district. They go straight into TRS. They're not operational dollars for the district. They go straight into the retirement system. And that's $465 per student. So the remaining revenue of that amount, that original $14,928, is $11,038 per student.
They missed the roads that we drive on. They could probably get the transportation cost, the cost of the roads and sidewalks going in. They could have added that in. Does that debt service go to INS, or does it, if you got it, does it go into the maintenance M&O side?
It will go to the INS side. It goes to the debt service side if it comes through, if you get it. Now, we do not get what they call EDA, existing debt allotment, or instructional facilities allotment in this district. Other districts do, and may be eligible for that.
But it goes to their INS side of it.
It goes to the INS side, correct. So, again, doesn't affect our day-to-day operations and pay the bills and where we're seeing the significant levels of inflation. So now let's dive a little bit deeper and look at how, on average, that $11,038 was distributed to school district. Again, this is back the 2021-2022 school year that TEA provided in the way of data. So here are some of the notable allocations, with the understanding that these amounts are the average based on the total number of students and average daily attendance in the state, and that districts do not receive all of these monies depending on their actual eligibility as a district, as well as each student's educational makeup. So, for instance, EMS ISD does not receive the small district allotment that's at the top of this list.
Also, if you notice on the school safety allotment, we know received a few more dollars this year based upon last year's decision from the legislature. But what's not offset is the amount of money more that we have to spend in order to meet the unfunded mandate of an officer per school. And so you find that case there. You find that case with students with disabilities, where about 80% of the cost is coming from the general fund, the liability there. You also have the early education allotment, which doesn't pay for all of those unfunded mandates and for pre-K. And so once you start pulling those dollars out, that number of 1138 actually gets smaller. Doesn't mean those things aren't good. They are. It's just that they're acting as if those are no cost and that they're full. It appears, if I was looking at this, I would think they were fully funding those areas, and they're not. They're only partially funding those areas, at the same time making requirements and not giving the board or the administration the flexibility to make those decisions locally.
Well put.
But TEA is communicating.
Right. Plus, plus the Bader that you see there. There's a lot. So they've used this gross number of $14,928. In actuality, it's not even close to that. And it's very interesting, the timing of that, since we and many other districts are running deficit budgets, that this number is coming out at this time, and statements have been made at the state level that the money is here locally. Well, no. It's not.
No.
And you mentioned on the roads, or that the one that's probably most egregious to me is TRS pass-through. I mean, we don't control that at all, and that has to do with pensions, and they're putting that on the liability. And the problem is that this comes from children and educators. This is where this comes from, is our ability to provide education for kids and properly fund teachers and other support staff to do that. And so this is frustrating to see this reported this way.
Absolutely. And I'll touch on a few of these in a moment, but for further reference, in the last legislative session, being that was a regular session and 4 called special sessions to date, I do recall proposals of the education savings accounts, or vouchers as we all know them, amounts of $8,000. There's one that specifically a bill, I believe, was $10,400, and then it seems like there were some other proposals, some higher, some lower. But regardless, it's difficult to comprehend what they're basing those numbers on, and in which I think would be a conclusion coming through as we look at this chart.
You could have just stopped after comprehend. It's difficult to comprehend.
There we go. I agree.
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned, just some of the, some of the items, small district allotment. So we see that $11,038, and in understanding all these allocations, these are things that that don't apply to every student, don't apply to every district, and it's very difficult to
It's misleading.
Yes, yeah, to say that we're spending, that a voucher would pay for a voucher of any level beyond the. We have the $6,160, which is that green box, which is our basic allotment there at the bottom. Anything above that is optional as far as from the standpoint of we don't know if a student would qualify for that, depending on that amount, depending on their educational needs and or the district that they live in. It could all vary. And so, looking at that, just wanted to point that out because they are, students' needs vary individually. But that's what our public education system does. It's going to serve the needs of every student. And that's what we do for that amount across the district. We serve every student. When you start trying to figure out what students are eligible and looking at that, I think that a voucher number would be something significantly less than the $11,038 as a base. So just wanted to get that information out there. A few other things, and I think we kind of touched on these as well, kind of looking at a larger picture in trends, historical trends for the district or for the state. As a percentage of statewide general revenue, we can see that the spending on public education is down significantly from 40% in that 2020-2021 biennium. It dropped to 32% in the 2022-2023 biennium. And we'll go into a little more detail on the history since then. But going back, if you go back further and you go back to the 06-07 biennium, you can see where our statewide percentage has been around that 38 to 42%, coming up to where we're at right now. And again, we're down to 32% coming into the current biennium. If we look at the basic allotment, I know we've talked about it, but again, it's still sitting at $6,160 per student. It hasn't changed since 2019, while inflation, based on the Consumer Price Index, is up to 19% between the September 2019 and August 2024 time period. And that's going to equate to about $1,100 increase to the basic allotment that we have not seen a dollar of. So let's talk about what's happened. Again, that was TEA's approach in bringing us some information from 2022. And now let's kind of talk about what have they done since then? What has happened at the state level since then? And just a quick recap on the legislative session. So we got the $4.5 billion that was appropriated for public education. that was actually in contingency riders, and it didn't pass in either in the regular or the 4 special sessions. That money's still sitting in Austin. School districts haven't seen that. You also have, Dr. Chadwell mentioned the school safety related requirements that were added in House Bill 3. That was funded at $300 million versus the estimated cost to school districts of those requirements could exceed over $1 billion. And so well underfunded there. Then there's instructional materials allotment that they did increase by $307 million. But to note that that actually is just restoring cuts that were made in previous sessions. And so we're just getting back to the original, the prior level for that. Same thing happened with the new instructional facilities allotment. They added $60 million to that allotment. But again, that only restores it back to the previous level that was cut before. And then as we mentioned, the TRS Active Care, they pushed some additional funds into the TRS Active Care program, and to the tune of $588.5 million. And that will help offset. It won't completely offset, we do not believe, but it will at least partially offset some of the rising premium costs that we believe our participating employees may see in the TRS Active Care program. The beauty of that program, it is a statewide program, and it has been able to provide some savings to employees for the districts that participate in it. But one of the most recent changes that as districts started pulling out of that program, TRS made the decision in order to compete to allow the regional service center areas to geographically start changing the pricing premiums throughout the state based on the cost in those areas so that they can compete in strategic areas. Unfortunately, while we would think that competition in the number of medical providers and facilities that we have in the Metroplex would actually put us maybe in a better situation, the reality is competition actually has increased the cost of operating. And so medical costs in areas like Dallas, Region 10, and Fort Worth, Region 11, are actually the highest in the state. And so premiums, we'll have when as they finally begin implementing regional pricing, we'll see premiums higher for our area than other parts of the state. And so we're hoping that there'll be some assistance in relief with that.
That doesn't sound like capitalism is working there. Sounds like the reverse. Is this increased cost go to the employees, or does it come back to the school district when we're saying it's not going to offset? We're contributing.
We contribute. Districts have a minimum amount that they must contribute towards employee cost, and we exceed that in order to take care of our employees as part of our compensation program. But yes, if there are premium costs with then that increase, those premiums fall on employees.
This amount went directly to TRS.
In this amount, yes.
To manage the healthcare system.
Yes.
And so I think there's about 50 to 55% of TRS employees actually take the insurance. And so this doesn't affect everybody equally. It's only those that take the insurance.
Correct.
Just like the amount that we reimburse is the same. You know, the minimum is 225 and we do 300. Is that correct?
Yes.
Per month.
Yeah. Several years ago, the district and board strategically increased that allotment from 225 to 250 to 275 to 300 over the course of 3 years to assist employees. So that's very, very well done. But yes, like you said, you would think competition doesn't always provide good value or provide better costs and good value.
Evidently.
So with that, I do thank you for letting me share some of the background on the funding trends and the financial support for public education, or lack thereof, from the state that has put school districts in a bind for not only the current and upcoming years, but into the foreseeable future, unless priorities at the state level change. So if there's, if there's any questions I can answer for you tonight, I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, you got another one for us then on capacity issuance?
One more. All right, so this report, just want to give you a status update on the plan to issue our first round of bonds authorized under our November 2023 bond election, and just kind of talk through where we're at. And so first off, you heard tonight about where we are in the 2017 bond program. We've got remaining funds. We're sitting at a little over 150 million there to finish out that long list of projects that y'all have seen. Just a reminder that all authorized proceeds have been issued for the district leading up to the 2023 bond program. And so all the 2017 authorizations have been issued, and the funding that you see there is the remaining amount to take care of as we close out and finish the completion of Eagle Mountain High School, the Saginaw High School Field House, District Capital Maintenance Program, and projects that y'all saw on the list tonight, as well as the YMCA Natatorium project.
We fully expect those 156 million to cover those expected expenditures?
Yes, yes, okay. We do. We are making it work. So, and we'll, at this point, we do not see any concerns. And so then as we move to the 2023 bond program, and you saw that long list that Mr. Lee was walked through for us. Right now we have on our bare minimum amount in order to kick that off is 120 million estimated through August 2025. I think as we talk about options and some things that might be able to save us, we probably need to expect that number to be higher. But that's the bare minimum. And then as a reminder, we did have a resolution to reimburse back in January that the board did approve, and that allowed us to move forward with planning and any work that needed to be done as part of the 2023 bond program and prior to the issuance. And then
real quick,
yes,
back to the Saginaw Fieldhouse Natatorium project. Those are different scopes than was original. I just want to make that clear. Sure. Than what was original in 2017 bond, because we had the COVID, right? And then those went back out for bond and didn't pass. So
true. This is purely the dollar amount.
Yeah.
For those
only the dollar amount that's in there.
So
the
2023 bond, but the scope was defined in the 17 bond. It didn't change.
Not from the, but we won't be doing what they won't be
doing.
Correct.
Right. Correct. Yes, just trying to make that clear.
Yeah, that's, yes. Yeah, the Saginaw High School Fieldhouse, that was a 2017 bond program that was approved back during that time. And that project will be completed as proposed under that program. That is separate of the proposition in 2023 that.
Which didn't include the additional improvements to Fieldhouse and then indoor facility.
Correct. So we're working on the planning of the first issuance of that new authorization from the 2023 or November 2023 election. And so right now we're planning around a May or June sale of that bond issuance. And we feel like that the market demand right now that might be an ideal time for us to get to market. If it doesn't look right or things change, our time frame is August of 2024 to get that bond issuance done. That'd be the latter point of the window that we want to get it done. But we think that it makes sense to move forward and move early on it. So right now we're putting a maximum potential issuance of about 150 million out there. And that's, again, to give us a little buffer to allow us to adjust for things that might change in the construction market and to be able to move as we need to. As we even talked about tonight, potentially middle school 7 may make sense for it to move up a little faster. So that will assist us there.
Well, there's quite a few expenses, and just looking back at what Hunter proposed for the 2023 bond expenses that are going to be coming due in May and June. So these proceeds have to be on board in order to pay those bills, right?
So we do have the resolution to reimburse, which will allow us to move forward and pay those bills. And then once the issuance comes, once we issue dollars, we can pay ourselves back with that.
We're going to pay it out of M&O?
It'll come out of general funds, or
is it not INS debt service? Or is it M&O debt service?
It would come out of general fund for the temporary time. But they would those amounts would be paid back within the fiscal year, with the issuance happening before August 2024. So
will you be able to have a separate bond category fund for the 2023 bond and not combine it with the 17 bond?
We will be accounting for them separately within our fund, within our accounting system.
You'll have them separate?
Yes, so we'll have to, in fact, we'll have to account for even, we'll be accounting for even the propositions will be accounted for separately. So
and that's how you'd like to see them when they're presented to us as well?
Absolutely. So we will definitely be able to do that. As far as the tax rate, with only propositions A and B being approved, the proportional cost of that 1/10 of a penny would be the 8/10 of a penny, or 8/100 of a penny or in this case, 8/1000 of a penny. No, 8/100 of a penny for, sorry, I had to get that right.
A lot of zeros on the side of decimal there.
Yeah, it is. So, that 1/10 of a penny, we're only going to be able to take 80% of it, basically. So, and add to our maximum tax rate, which would be the maximum tax rate that we would propose would be for the 2024-25 would be that 49 or 0.4988 cents per $100. And then also just kind of talking through one of the other pieces that we have to look at, obviously, is capacity. And if we go back to what we put out before voters, and as the bond propositions were coming in from the Long Range Facility Planning Committee, that first year bond sale here in the 2024, our capacity then was rated at 181 million. We're well within that number with 150 million, but we also have had some changes since then that with the property tax reduction, homestead exemption increases that have impacted that a little bit. In fact, one of the things as we look at our next steps is in April, TEA is still working right now to implement with final formulas, recommendations on the hold harmless funding for Senate Bill 2 on the INS side. We expect that to happen in April. And there has been a lot of discussion among school finance leaders in the state of how that should play out. And we actually, while they were able to adjust for and have hold harmless for the homestead exemption, there's still some potential freeze loss that may not have been accounted for in the legislation, and so how that plays out is one of those things that we're still awaiting to see. So with that, then we'll have an updated capacity and to verify, update capacity chart and to verify, make sure that everything's still on target, which we fully expect. But until that happens, we're waiting to take next steps. The other key piece with that is obviously we look at property values each year, and that first report from Tenor Appraisal District comes at the end of April, beginning of May, and that will, that preliminary report gives us a real look into what our property values will be, and that obviously impacts our capacity as well. But again, we believe we'll be on target with the $150 million number. And then we would see in April, probably more likely May, a board agenda item for the order of issuance. And so we just wanted to make sure that y'all have that on the radar. We'll be providing additional information as we get closer to that time frame. The other thing is that we have our variable rate bonds will need to be remarketed this year. 5 years ago, we went out with those, marketed them, locked in a rate, and they are coming due, and we'll have to remarket those. There's about 44 million remaining in that 2011 issuance, and we'll be able to go through the issuance process with those as well. There'll be a separate transaction, but we'll be able to avoid a lot of costs of having an additional issuance if we go through the process of our new monies issuance and have that as part of that process as well. So
what do we anticipate the rates to do on those variable rates?
They'll definitely be up. So we're sitting at about 1.6 right now, and we budget for the future based off a 5% coupon. Probably when we get to market, they'll be 3.25. There'll be more than what we've had in the past, but we also we've started paying those down. This year, we approved a $9 million defeasance that will happen before the end of the year as part of our original budget. And we'll continue to do that in future years to look at based off of our collections and knowing now that they're going to cost us a little bit more. We'll continue to look at the opportunity to defease and bring our debt levels down, and those will be our first target.
Is this capacity that you gave us on the chart that had the different colors for the different years of adding about 95 million a year, does that correspond to our current plan that we've been hearing about when we're going to build facilities?
We're pretty much still in that same general target of about 100 million a year, but there'll be some variation on it. It all depends on what we continue to see in the way of growth. We're also, like I said, we're having to net back in the impact of the homestead exemption against that.
Is this what you anticipate the growth would allow us to do, or which end of the scale is the 95 million a year on? It's based off of, again, I think what you're asking is, where does there more capacity there if we move the middle school up, or we?
I got you. Yeah. We will, I think we'll have additional capacity. I think we're going to see enough growth that we'll have some additional capacity.
Would you just like an updated version of this chart for forecasting?
Yeah, we're, like I said, we're knowing that TEA was going to make a pretty significant.
This was just for reference, because
make a pretty major implementation of their numbers in April, and those are going to be a pretty substantial update. We didn't want to
muddy the waters. Yeah,
muddy the waters.
When you're ready, I think we'd like to see it.
Yeah, and so we want to just kind of go back and again just look at this going back to August of last year, and know that we're within range. We're good, but we'll have updates as we get a little clearer picture on the final.
We don't want to get out over our skis any.
Right? Exactly. So, and with that, again, if there's any additional questions, but wanted to get that on your radar because we typically would be looking at that in August, and we will continue to look at that probably in August in future years. But because we have this interim point that we need to, like I said, since November, we have an interim point to take advantage of in getting this issuance in. We have an opportunity to move that up and maybe have a better market. So want to get that on the radar. So with that.
Looks like no more questions.
That's enough from you, Mr. Welch.
All
right.
Such great news. Thank you so much.
Let's move on to human resources. We have a secondary staffing proposal, Mr. Moga.
Good evening, everybody. President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, members of the board. You have some handouts, I believe, beginning on page 69 in your packet. And I want to specifically draw your attention to a couple of spreadsheets. The first one being the middle school portion of the staffing report, and navigating the challenges that we've outlined with our current situation with the budget that we're working through. You see a little historical perspective with the demographer projections for the past couple of years. And as you work your way over for each middle school, you see the 24-25 demographer projections. And you'll notice for the middle school that each one of them are projected for the fall to grow, some more than others. But from our analysis and our work that we've done for the past 2 to 3 months, we're not recommending any additional staffing for any of our middle schools. And we're confident that with the expertise we have of our principals, that they'll be able to handle the additional students if the demographer projections are correct, and handling those students, remaining a staffing ratio of 27-1. So that's for middle school. Before I go on to the high school, are there any questions about middle school? Pardon my voice, I'm still getting over a little bit of crud from the last couple of weeks. So if you go a couple more handouts back, then we're now looking at the high school projections, same kind of model. We got a couple of years of historical perspective, and then going kind of towards the middle of that sheet for 24-25. It's a little bit different story for our high schools because of the opening of Eagle Mountain High School. So they're projected to lose various amounts of students. And we're raising our class size ratios to 30/1 to help account for that. And then you get down to Eagle Mountain High School, which is opening with freshmen through juniors. So again, we're not recommending any additional staffing, obviously, for the current high schools because of the feeding and opening of Eagle Mountain High School. We currently have a voluntary transfer process underway to help staff Eagle Mountain High School internally. There's also some external opportunities for hiring as well that's continuing to go on, especially for our coaches. We are, for Eagle Mountain High School, recommending 5 general teaching positions. For your consideration will be on the agenda for action here in just a little bit. That'll give us, we believe, some additional flexibility if needed for positions that we can't, positions that we can't hire and find through the transfer process. Specialty type positions are not program specific. They're not content area specific that we may need to post and go external to hire. And so those will be on an as needed basis. They're not spoken for currently, and we may not use all 5 of those. That is the only staffing for secondary recommendation that we're asking for your consideration this evening, and those will be for Eagle Mountain High School. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Nope. Talk to us about additional staffing then as well.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that's Dr. Gamel.
Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, Board of Trustees. Piggybacking off the secondary staffing, what I'm bringing is the additional staffing report. So this report, by and large, also includes the support and auxiliary staff for Eagle Mountain High School. So our police officers, our child nutrition staff, our custodial staff for that building. That is the majority of this report. There is one additional teaching FTE that we're asking for to support the behavior needs at our elementary campuses. So there was a program this year, the Success Academy, was very successful. We were not able to do that on every elementary campus. With all of the restructuring and the work that we've been doing, we are providing additional behavior support for our elementary campuses. You'll also see the expansion of the pre-K program. And so you'll see a few aides there and some instructional support for pre-K on the additional staffing. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Somebody has a question? But I don't know where that came from.
Is the other funding source, some of it's coming out of general, right, on your schedule on page 77?
Right. The support staff for Eagle Mountain High School, the police officers, the custodians, those will come out of general.
Okay.
But the Success Academy teachers and the early childhood, those are from different funding sources with our comp ed and then also our early childhood allotment.
All right, thank you.
And we'll bring this back for action later this evening.
And this matches what you saw in the budget workshop, with the exception the librarian and the campus support technician are positions that were added since that time. We do feel like we may be able to do those internally, and those positions actually won't realize a budget increase. So that should be handled internally through attrition, through another position moving into that area. But beyond that, that's what you saw here just a couple weeks ago.
Questions? All right, thank you. I think that finally concludes our reports this evening. So we can move on to action items. First, we have consider the order canceling the 2024 school trustee election. Mr. Welch.
Once again, trustees, it is a great privilege to be able to bring a order canceling the 2024 school trustee election to you as of the deadline to run in that May 4th, 2024 school trustee election. We only had one candidate who had filed for each place in places 1 and 2, those held by Dr. Marilyn Tolbert and Mrs. Paige Ring. Therefore, we are able to declare the election, we were able to cancel the election, and then come May 20th, we'll be able to swear our unopposed candidates in for another term.
I move that the Board of Trustees order the cancellation of the 2024 school trustee election.
Second.
And congratulate Marilyn and Paige at the same time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I have a motion. I've got a motion by Steve and a second by Ron. Was there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have consider approving the 24-25 secondary staffing proposal. Mr. Mogan.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 secondary staffing proposal as presented.
Second.
Just recently.
I have a motion
Just recently.
by Tim and a second by Marilyn. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Now we've got consider approving the 24-25 additional staffing proposal. Dr. Gamel.
I make a motion to approve the 2024-2025 additional staffing proposal as presented earlier by Maria.
Second.
A motion by Tim, a second by Marilyn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Lee, we have award contractor for resurfacing of gym floors at multiple campuses.
All right, thanks for having me back up here. The current gym floor at Chisholm Ridge, Comanche Springs, Lake Point, Northbrook, Parkview, and Wilmington Point Elementary are currently at the end of their life cycle. They are a poured-in-place rubber floor, and we'll be going back with the new district standard. Not necessarily new, but a district standard, which is a vinyl sheet with a rubber backing. Has a nice wood look to it. The district received 3 quotes from 3 approved vendors: Champion Flooring, Ponder Flooring, Vector Concepts. Champion Flooring submitted the most competitive pricing for the specified product. The funds will be coming out of the 2023 bond funds. And so the recommendation is to award Champion Flooring for the resurfacing of gymnasium flooring at multiple campuses at a cost not to exceed $474,454.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Marilyn, a second, I think that was Steve.
Was,
Any discussion?
that was a very competitive bid there between them. Have we used Champion Floor on other projects?
We haven't used Champion Flooring. They're actually my contact. He actually worked at Vector Concepts. So I know him. I've done past projects with him, but Ponder and Vector, I mean, all these players have done work in the district.
All of them have. And this new floor is what we have in the new gyms, the vinyl wood. Okay. I made a motion, but I wanted to ask.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, seeing no more discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none, motion carries 7-0. All right, and if you want to stay up there and talk to us about resurfacing of playgrounds.
Right, absolutely. Current product outside of Hatley Elementary is the first addition, which we transitioned to turf surfacing at playgrounds. Former product which we used is a plastic border, and it had wood fiber infill. As you've seen at many of our facilities, a lot of those borders are kind of falling out. Wood chips are all over the place. It's kind of become a maintenance nightmare and just a mess that we have to clean up and refill from year to year. So what we did is we posted an RFQ through our electronic bidding system. Ion Wave received 3 responses for the playground resurfacing in multiple campuses. Sinlon, Playground Shade and Servicing Depot, Turf Concepts. After reviewing the bids, we believe that Sinlon provided the best quality for the purchase and installation of resurfacing material. Funding for this project will come out of the 2023 bond funds. So the recommendation is to award Sinlon for the playground resurfacing at multiple campuses at a cost not to exceed $1,475,731.60. Any questions?
I have a question.
I'll move. Second.
I have a question.
Okay, I have a motion by Steve and I have a second by Tim, and now I'd love discussion.
Thank you, sorry. So have you, this turf is at Hatley. Have you guys checked the heat on that lawn turf?
Not, we provide products that are heat reflective in the sense that they don't, like our play surfacing turf, like it's not supposed to get to a certain heat index. I don't have the specific number on
Okay,
it.
yeah. Years ago, we put some down at another facility and it was really hot. It was not, so I'm just wanting to make sure that we.
That's something we especially consider
great.
for elementary school playground
Thank
surfaces
you.
is that.
And I would think that we've watched the Hatley Elementary School now that it's been in. Is it?
It's performing excellent.
It's performing,
Yeah,
we're happy, it looks like. I mean, it's a very small sample size.
Right, but it looks great. And just so that y'all know, the contractor that we're proposing, they did a similar project for Frisco ISD, and they did 45 schools in one summer. So
oh, wow.
They also did Hatley Elementary School as well.
Good.
So we've got a good example of their work.
And that's the one, the bid you proposed.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I can speak to this too, like the technology and the turf deal with the infill and things like that's come a long way in the last couple of years, but definitely in the last 5 years. As far as heat.
Right.
Not perfect, but do you know what the infill is that they're using?
I do not.
That's fine.
I don't know the exact product they're using.
That's one of the big factors. So I'm sure they've addressed it.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none, motion carries 7-0. So that brings us to action item F, designate the method of procurement for the roof and RTU replacements at multiple campuses.
All right, Texas Government.
I mean, we designate construction manager at risk as the method that provides the best value for the roof and RTU replacement at multiple campuses.
Second.
I have a motion by Steve, a second by Blake. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none, motion carries 7-0. That concludes our action items and brings us to routine monthly reports. Were there any questions or comments on those? All right, then Dr. Chadwell, would you like to review the board planning calendar?
Yes, this is item 9. This is on page 145. You'll send your reports. The next meeting, we'll have another budget report under operations, construction, maintenance summer update, and child nutrition report. Also, report of board member continuing education. Under communication, recognitions of our career and technology program competition winners, and also under action items, the Gold Star Transportation contract. Under consent agenda, we expect to have the Regional 11 contracts. In fact, that process is underway right now. We also have the approval of the instructional materials allotment and text certification for 24-25 and continuation of contract renewals for district employees.
Any questions on that? All right, that brings us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Steve, a second by Tim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. All right, and that brings us to board president's announcements. I just had a few things this evening. First, I wanted to thank Marilyn for filling in for me last month at the last minute while I was contagious with the flu. I did get to listen to her on the phone, and I know she did a wonderful job, so I thank you very much for stepping up at the last minute. Appreciate that. I will also remind us all, there are a few of us that still need training. You should have your individual stats in your packet, but there are a few things that need to be done here by April. So if you could make sure you get those in and let our admins know that you have completed those so they can update their records, I would appreciate that. Few calendar items, North Texas Association of School Boards meeting this Wednesday, April 7th, or I'm sorry, not this Wednesday, on Wednesday, April 17th from 6 to 8, and that's at Birdville ISD. You have an RSVP in your folder. If you'd let us know if you plan to attend that. If you're serving on the evaluation subcommittee, we've got a meeting Tuesday, April 30th from 10 to 12. And then May 7th, there's a retiree dinner from 5 to 7 p.m. And May 14th, the 20 years plus of service reception from 5 to 7 as well. And then you also have an RSVP about SLI that is being held on June 19th through the 22nd this year. So you can turn that in as well. That's all I have.
Good. Under my area, again, on page 206 of your packet, we have a number of events. In addition to what President Ring mentioned, we have the Evening with the Experts at Chisholm Trail High School on April the 25th. Also, a Schools to Watch ceremony for Wayside Middle School. They applied for this opportunity and did receive this from that national organization. That's on May 2nd at 6 o'clock. We also have the district-wide art experience. That's the Saginaw High School Performing Arts Center. That's on May 3rd at 5:30. And also Bass Hall Fine Art Showcase. Remember this year, this is different. It's on the 20th and the 21st. That's something that's, I think is going to be well received because it's a pretty long evening for everyone that's involved with putting that on. Also a requirement through Bass Hall, but we think that's going to be a real value add for that evening. We're always proud of that event. Mr. Bell, anything you want to add to that at all?
We're excited. Both shows will start at 7 p.m. The first night will feature our middle school and high school bands. Within between performances from other district departments. And Tuesday night, October 1st, will feature our 4 of our elementary choirs as well as our high school band performers. So we're very excited about that.
Good. And the final things on there is just watching the graduation dates, which is weird. I'm sure President Ring feels the same with our the last kid coming through and a senior. It's kind of weird to see all those dates come through, and I'm getting a little bit nostalgic, but that's okay. It's exciting to see. Also, you just approved in consent agenda a change to the board meeting. Mr. Welch had mentioned May 20th. That's actually been moved to May the 28th now officially. And so that's on that Tuesday, that board meeting will be. And finally, again, just
2 board meetings though, didn't it?
It did.
Okay.
It did. That's just wanted to mention that one. It also mentioned next January or December.
So you're just mentioning that one because
Yeah,
we
just the one.
made reference to that.
Yeah. And so finally, just to echo what was said earlier, for Marilyn and Paige, congratulations. Really excited that y'all are continuing to serve in your role, and all of you, because we know this is really hard work. This has been a challenging month in terms of budget, and we talked a lot about this, of course, in our budget workshop and previous board meeting. We've discussed a lot about the challenges that this actually feels at the district level, and I know y'all feel that because you've talked about it. And just I appreciate your efforts going into that and your support, and to make sure that we get everything we can from the state and that we can do everything we can for our kids and for our staff. And so this is continuing to be difficult, but we are working our best. And unfortunately, it's a situation where with the reductions last year and the reductions this year, we're having to make some really hard decisions. And I just really want to commend our staff on working through those as best they can in a professional manner. So that's all I have tonight. But again, thank you very much for everything.
All right, Steve.
Madam President, appearing there's no further business to come before this board, I move we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Steve, a second by Marilyn. All those in favor? We are adjourned.